Investment banking isn't some private members only club for target school grads. That narrative just gets recycled over and over again until people stop questioning whether it's actually true. I'm a VP investment banker in London and I studied chemistry with no finance internship, yet the path I took, which was not via a bulge bracket, positioned me better for where I am now. And here's why. After graduating, I moved back home with a chemistry degree and no clear direction. All the while, my friends were starting jobs, getting paid and moving out, and I was at home explaining why I didn't have a job yet. And the frustrating part wasn't even the rejections. It was that I didn't even know what I was aiming for, whilst my peers seemed to have grad roles lined up as though they had been groomed for that for years, or whilst I worked tirelessly and relentlessly with no visible progress. And there's a specific kind of pressure that comes from being judged for doing nothing when you're trying everything. But that pressure itself creates urgency, and it turns out urgency can be useful. But first I had to accept an uncomfortable truth. I wasn't unlucky and I wasn't incapable, but I was uninitiated, i.e. I didn't understand how the game worked. And the truth is, this world does not reward potential or effort in isolation. It rewards those who figure out themselves how the game works. Your disadvantages earn no sympathy, and the clock is real, and your optionality does diminish a lot quicker than you think. And the truth is, while you're figuring it out, people who started ahead are already 3 years into their career. So the question for me became, do I keep complaining about not knowing the rules, or do I learn them fast enough to catch up? So I decided I was going to apply for literally everything. I mean, dozens and dozens of applications, and of course, rejection after rejection. Now, most people send 5 applications and give up. I did not, I kept going, but the pressure to settle was increasing. And of course, when you're living at home after graduating with no income and getting rejection after rejection, the pressure to settle and just take any job does increase, and it is real. And I almost settled. Honestly, I had an interview lined up for an 18K a year sales role at a medical equipment firm. And even though there was a bonus promised, it was going to be way below what I was worth. But as I said, I was getting desperate. And it wasn't until my auntie stepped in and sort of gave me a reality check and said, look, if you lock this path in, you are always going to be recovering. So you need to hold tight and hold out for what you're worth, but for that you need to put in even more work. So I had to be honest with myself. Yes, I did not want to settle, but at the same time, applying for summer analyst roles at bulge bracket banks where I had the 2% chance of success was also stupid. So I needed to start targeting banks where I was better positioned. And for me, that meant looking at universal and regional banks. So a quick aside, in the banking ecosystem, you have your bulge brackets, you have your mid-market investment banks, and your elite boutiques. And these primarily operate in the investment banking space. Then you have universals and regionals, which operate in other jurisdictions and offer more services, of which part of it is investment banking. So here, my probability of success was a bit higher. So to me, the solution was obvious. Get in first, prove competence, and then decide what to do with it. So once I adjusted my targeting, I changed how I operated. So I went from guessing and applying for everything to systematically applying and operationalizing the process. Applications, outreach, feedback, self-reviews, every step of the value chain. I tracked every application, every cold email, every rejection. Each one of these was data for me to learn from. So I stopped focusing on perfection and started focusing on iteration. But here's what made the difference. I prepared harder than every person who thought their credentials were enough. While target school grads were relying on their degrees and internships, I was building proof of work. I was working on learning modeling, analyzing businesses, monitoring the markets, and showcasing this through my applications. And eventually this led to me landing a corporate banking role at a UK regional bank. And although it wasn't the most prestigious, it meant that I was in. Now, although corporate banking got me in, I quickly realized that I wanted more. I wanted to press on beyond BAU and lower value services to higher value, higher stakes transactions that actually made a difference to clients and to markets. And work that required deeper finance understanding. And at this point, I'd also completed CFA level 1 and I was enjoying it, and I wanted a role that actually implemented what I had learned. So I wanted to target investment banking, and I looked at where my background gave me an advantage, and project finance made the most sense. Project finance involves funding energy infrastructure such as solar farms, wind farms, and so on, and this overlapped with my chemistry background. So I made the argument that I always cared about the energy transition, which was true to some extent, and that infrastructure finance was central to that, and therefore I wanted to be involved in financing projects that really made a difference to the environment. Plus, I already knew how to evaluate businesses from my time in corporate banking, which is essentially credit analysis, and then given my CFA studies, I also understand what move markets, so combining these meant that I made made a compelling proposition and landed a role in project finance. Once I was in project finance, I got exposure to the full deal cycle. I worked closely with private equity sponsors. I went much deeper on the modeling front and I understood the end-to-end diligence process. But I realized that I wasn't so interested in the asset class. The nature of the work was very enjoyable, just not the sector. And I wanted exposure to real businesses, those that I buy from and see in the press on a day-to-day basis, and so therefore leverage finance made the most sense. Leverage finance involves the buyout of real businesses by private equity firms, and this would therefore give me exposure to that real-world relatable angle and would teach me how to evaluate real businesses, which would help me longer term in my goal to eventually run a business. So I targeted an internal move into leverage finance, and I made the case that my credit analysis is good, I understand what moves markets, and that my deal exposure and modeling has got significantly better from project finance. And so ultimately I was able to land the role, and it's a great example of internal mobility in large organizations. You can often get in at one touch point and then move towards the team that you eventually want to work in. And once you land in leverage finance, many opportunities open up. You can go do leverage finance at a larger bank, you can go into private credit, you can go into advisory or into industry teams. So for me, this opened up two options, either exit to something else or focus on progressing upwards. But honestly, I've enjoyed myself so much working at a LevFid team at a smaller bank. I got so much more ownership, I was involved with clients from very early on. The structure is a lot flatter and less hierarchical, which meant I got more ownership and exposure to clients a lot earlier, which meant that I learned faster than some of my peers at other banks. And ultimately, I made VP and now I speak directly to CFOs and own relationships. And although some of this was enabled by the structure, a lot of it was enabled by me out preparing my peers. Firstly, I learned the technical skills that made me indispensable. So I went deep on financial modeling, a lot deeper than you had to, and assumed a lot more ownership on transactions and started to teach juniors and so on. I also went deep on valuations and structuring, so I made sure that I didn't have any major shortcomings on the technical front. Then I went above and beyond and contributed beyond my day job and made my value clear, and this is so key. It's all well and good being good at your job and knowing what you're doing, but unless other people know that too, it will count against you. Now, I want to emphasize, I wasn't always smooth with this. I remember early in my journey on a networking call with the director, I actually asked what product versus coverage is, and he kind of just paused, probably wondering how I got this far without knowing the answer to that. But nonetheless, he actually spent 15 minutes mapping out the full bank structure and explaining it to me, and ultimately this showed a couple of things. People are always willing to help other people if they're sincere, and admitting your shortcomings and ignorance is faster than pretending. Like being someone who's curious and asking questions, and then somebody who actually learns quickly as a result of that will lead to people actually helping you, and ultimately will lead to advocacy and people supporting you because they know that they don't have to tell you twice. And this is what trust ultimately looks like in banking. Now, I want to touch on recruitment opportunities once you land in a team like this. So at the beginning, this journey was very difficult, but as I progressed from analyst to associate and then eventually VP, the number of inbounds that come from recruiters increases massively. Honestly, once your foot is in the door and your LinkedIn profile is optimized and you have sufficient critical mass of experience, opportunities will come to you. And I had many opportunities to exit to a bigger bank or to move into private credit, but ultimately I was faced with the question, what am I actually optimizing for? Prestige or building something sustainable? And look, I'm not going to pretend that a regional bank has the same exit opportunities as Goldman Sachs. If you want to work in private equity or a hedge fund, then a bulge bracket is definitely a better choice for you. But what if you're not looking for those sorts of exits? What if you want to build equity in other ways, such as studying the CFA or having other professional qualifications, or building a side business, or actually having time for your family? Regional banks and universal banks still give you the skills to be a great banker whilst leaving room to build other things. And ultimately for me, I opted to be a VP who manages client relationships, has the CFA, has a YouTube channel, and can make some time for his family. And this was rather than chasing a brand that demands that I give up everything. But I want to pause and clarify what this actually looks like. I used to work 50 to 70 hours a week in banking, and it was definitely worse when I was an analyst and even an associate. And beyond that, working in leverage finance means you're always on. You have to be available via email and Teams, which means constantly being plugged in. And that doesn't change whether you're at Lloyds, Santander, NatWest, Barclays, or Goldman. That's a product of the trade. Now, at a bulge bracket, the deal flow is going to be high. So that means a minimum of 70 plus hours is going to go on all banking. Beyond that, if you're at another bank, regional, universal, etc., you will have periods in the year where deal flow is lighter. And I used that time to build other equity. So initially the CFA until 2023, then this YouTube channel, and then starting a family in 2024. Ultimately, it's not less work, it's just different time allocation. Some weeks I'm still doing 70+ hours on deals alone, so no different to a bulge bracket analyst, but across the year I have more control over how I build equity outside banking, so it's not less work, but it's just optimizing for more value streams. And ultimately that's the trade-off that works for me. It's not necessarily the right decision, full stop, or for everyone else. Now look, if you can shoot for the top tier banks, I would do it, because you will learn loads there and the brand does carry weight. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. You will have more exit opportunities, but if you can't land it, then that doesn't mean that there's no value in working in other parts of the banking ecosystem. Just focus on landing a role at a bank with a decent value proposition, learn as much as you can, take ownership beyond your day job, and learn how to articulate your value to the market. And this is key. A lot of the skills that you learn at Goldman versus a universal or regional bank are going to be the same, but the brand does not do as much talking for you, so it's up to you to demonstrate your value through sheer competence and visibility to the market. And if you don't opt to exit to another bank, you can always focus on being promoted, and this comes from getting seniors to advocate for you and trust you. And trust comes from clarity of communication, confidence under pressure, and implementing feedback without repetition. Seniors promote those who they're confident putting in front of clients, and if you can showcase the characteristics that I just described, you'll be trusted to be put in front of clients. Ultimately, whether you opt for an exit or for promotion, it will boil down to the brand on your CV, how hard you work, how much you've demonstrated ownership and competence, and whether you can express your value clearly. So ultimately, to summarize, my disadvantage was not my chemistry degree or my lack of internship. It was my lack of knowledge or ignorance of the professional ecosystem. I had no mentors or early exposure, so I didn't understand internships, pipelines, signaling, timing of applications, and ultimately you're competing against people who have been groomed for this for years, and this is pretty common. So if you're watching this, you probably started in the same way, and I'm here to tell you that it is survivable, but only with urgency and precision. You can break into banking without a target school, without a finance degree or connections. I'm proof. But no one is coming to save you. Your advantage peers will not wait, and the clock does not care about fairness. So you have to move faster, prepare earlier, and outwork and outposition your peers. Now, of course, guidance helps, and I will show you the system, but the responsibility stays with you. And here's one thing worth calling out. The banking ecosystem is huge. There are far more universal, regional, and middle market institutions than there are bulge brackets, and your probability of landing a role in those is generally much higher. And for most people, that's not settling, that's the realistic path in. Now, I've turned everything that I learned into an actual system, the exact system that actually got me here. And if you'd like to know more, then I cover all of this in my newsletter, so sign up below. And if you enjoyed this video, then you're going to love the next one. I'll see you there.